Barbados in particular. I believe that it's important for us to always have an open mind when it comes to learning and watching and even doing business with China. I think we must maintain that open mind as we do with other countries. We must seek that first-hand experience that many Bajans we like to attain before we make a decision. We like to jack it, and I think that it's important that we keep an open mind, we do our research.
Barbados's relationship with China is one that spans over 4 decades and has been mutually beneficial in the areas of education, health, infrastructure, and agriculture. However, to know more about this relationship and the future plans of each country, I visited Barbados's embassy in Beijing, where I sat down with Barbados's ambassador to China, Hallam Henry.
I first arrived here in 2010. At the time, I was a bachelor's student. I came to study computer science. And whilst here, before even starting, I had to become fluent in Chinese. So I did a year of intensive Chinese language, Mandarin. And after that, I was immersed into my university here in Beijing, where I learned computer science, yes, but I also learned much about what was going on in China. One may remember that was the period that many commentators would refer to as China's rise. And while studying, I took part in several activities, both cultural, language, and internationally scoped activities that really piqued my interest in China. And that further continued as well into China's relationship with Barbados. While I was a student here, several delegations would come to China, and most of them would come to the embassy. Again, since I was here in Beijing, my predecessors, the ambassadors at the time, would often invite me to sort of give a talk or sort of orientation of the real situation on the ground here in Beijing, a local situation from the eyes of a student. And those opportunities then allowed me to understand a bit about what was going on at the highest level between Barbados and China. Now, this fascinated me. The fact that, Barbados, an island in the Caribbean, was attracting such interest at the highest levels. Our former Prime Minister, Stewart, visited here, several ministers in different fields. And I really wanted to become a part of that. I think that I was being included sort of in a non-official way, and I really wanted to become a part of that bridge that was being formed between Barbados and China. And that led me to pursue my master's at the time in Chinese politics, foreign policy, and international relations. And as it states, that really allowed me to get a grasp of the Chinese political system, China's policies as it turns to its governance, rule of law, and lastly, and most importantly, for me at the time, how it relates with other countries in the world.
Henry then left China to work back home before he took up his new role as ambassador to China in 2021. He's also one of Barbados's youngest ambassadors on mission at the age of 31, and he believes that the Barbados-China relationship will continue to strengthen as he highlights cooperation in key areas throughout the years.
So much of the cooperation that you would see as a person in Barbados can be looked at in terms of infrastructure development. Several historical projects in the past, the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Center, the National Gymnasium, the Cheapside Market, those were constructed with great assistance from the Chinese, and of course we are always thankful to them for that. You fast forward to most recent years in health, for example, we saw the abundance of assistance from the Chinese government in helping us cope with the rigors of the pandemic. And we saw this not only in the donation of vaccines, but also much of the PPE equipment, supplies. We've had further assistance in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital with other equipment, supplies again. Most notably, we've had 5 medical teams, a medical brigade from a city here in China called Chongqing. And they, left their families and their career here to serve Barbados and serve their country by assisting Barbados and really boosting some of the critical fields in the hospital. And of course, we're always thankful for that. Education. And naturally, I am a beneficiary of the cooperation that has existed in education. We've had a number of scholarships over the years, I believe dating back to the early 2000s or even the 90s. Agriculture, you've seen agricultural cooperation. Recently, I believe in 2021, a company here, Zoomlion, which is the largest agricultural equipment manufacturer in China, donated a sugarcane harvester to Barbados. And that, of course, given our history and our current trajectory with the sugarcane harvesting, was an invaluable asset. In addition, we see recently we've had the groundbreaking at the Hope Agricultural Station and the Center for Food Security and Entrepreneurship. These projects are also in stream.
Some of the more recent projects include the rehabilitation of the Scotland district by way of a $230 million concessional loan from the Exim Bank of China, also the rehabilitation of the Samlar's Castle and the National Stadium. However, collaboration in the agricultural sector is one the ambassador believes could reap great benefits, especially in the area of food security. What are some of the things China do here that's in the country that you think Barbados can start to incorporate in terms of further developing already?
Well, yes, I'm not sure which cities you've traveled to, but regardless, in terms of the urbanization of many of the cities here in China, the rural development in terms of the farming, the use of land, and I want to delve into agriculture because I believe agriculture is definitely one that the Chinese have done a remarkable job in. As I stated earlier, 1.4 billion people need to be fed every day in China, in stretching a landmass that makes it the second largest country in the world. So the cultivation, the movement of produce, the storage of produce, and the delivering of produce is something that the Chinese have been able to do at remarkable levels. The technology use in the agriculture, the other novel techniques, we see widespread use of aquaculture, and I wouldn't want to delve in too much into the technicalities of the agricultural science, but some of the most cutting edge techniques have been used here to use that landmass to produce for a wide range of palates actually here in China. The cuisines in the north and the south are quite different, as are the east and the west and the central of China. And I believe that Barbados, not just right now, but traditionally, food security is key for us. And to boost your food security, we need to look at the most efficient production methods and also the healthiest production methods that we can obtain. Now, that's one of the main fields where we are looking to cooperate with China. In recent weeks, we've actually had agricultural officials travel to China from Barbados, and they were able to participate in seminars where they could not only learn some of that smart agriculture being conducted by the Chinese, but they were also able to share the current situation in Barbados when it comes to agriculture, our plans, our historical wins, as I should say, in agriculture, our intentions to collaborate with China.
In the past few years, China has rapidly broadened its digital services, making it easier to do everyday tasks with a click of a button. And Barbados is also trying to improve its digital services. When I first came here and had physical money, would offer it in terms when I went to buy something, people look at me like I'm crazy, like what is this? And I found that so interesting because even though the world is going digital, it still hasn't been full-fledged immersed. But it seems here like China is leading in that space. For you, has that been the case? I know you've been here for quite a while.
Yes, and everything you've just said is true. Right now, the China we're living in is quite different from that which I arrived in when I first came, and even that which I would say even up until my graduation. So right now in China, just to give the public a bit of an introduction, everything is done by mobile payments, everything. And that's been facilitated by two major apps, one called WeChat, which is from Tencent, and also Alipay, which is made by Alibaba. In just to rewind, I believe about 5, 6 years ago, in 2016, 2017, none of this was mainstream. None of it. China managed to complete digitization in a way where they transition from online payments to mobile payments. So you can pay for your rent, your utilities, you can pay your phone bill, you can call a taxi right now with your phone and pay for it, similar to Uber as we would have in the West. You can purchase plane tickets, train tickets. You can order food, pay for the food. You can send money to your friends and send and receive money to your friends, pay for any services at any outlet in China. Even street vendors you can currently pay for now with mobile payments just by scanning a QR code. As you would have said, I've lived here for so many years and I haven't been to the ATM in about 6 years. I haven't had the need for physical cash since then. And it's quite remarkable. And, for a country of our size and with the technical expertise that we have on the ground, I really believe that with collaborations with those companies and others, I think that with the, graduates that we're producing at UE back home in computer science and these fields, I think collaborations with these companies here in China can only redound to the benefit of our digitization, but also the simplification of the livelihoods of the average Barbadian. The digitization in China is constantly improving, and it's something very important to our government. You would know we're sort of reforming a lot of the government systems in the public service, and private companies in Barbados have perhaps done that in their own way. But if we could really have some mainstream digital payment systems and other regulatory advancements, not only would that improve the livelihood of many Barbadians, but also it attracts a certain level of tourists. The average Chinese person, as I said, similar to myself, doesn't handle cash. They handle everything on the phone. So they actually, when they're looking for places to travel, they sometimes will explore, where can I use my WeChat Pay? Where can I use my Alipay? And these are just two examples of how, if we can work together, we can actually make ourselves more attractive to this market.
In terms of course, collaboration, what about sports?
It's one of the realms in our relationship that we have a very friendly and a very healthy relationship. Most recently, we've had a ping pong master travel to Barbados and engage in some training with local players there in the table tennis. And more opportunities like that definitely redound to the benefit of Barbadians. We also invite Barbadians to visit China on occasion to showcase their skills where the opportunity may be present. Recently, Barbados has been endeavoring to take road tennis to the world. We've seen our best road tennis players traveling to places such as Dubai, Kenya in Africa, and we really see China as a potential market for our indigenous sport. Of course, they're very proficient in several of the racket and ball sports, and we believe that they would be excited to challenge themselves and learn our version of the game.
And while there are not many Barbadians living in China, the embassy tries to make sure all the Barbadians there are in contact with each other.
Right now, I would say we have a couple dozen. The pandemic, unfortunately, during the pandemic, several students were unable to come, and many of them had returned home at the beginning of the pandemic and then were unable to return. Traditionally, in recent years, we'd have about 8, 9, 10 scholarship students per year, which was already a remarkable increase and testament to the building relationship between our countries. When I first came in 2010, we were only 2 students of that year. So over the years, we've had, I would say, around or over 100 students in total. And at any given time, we tend to have a few dozen Barbadians here, whether in mainland China, Hong Kong, or Macau.
And of course, China is so big. Is there a network in which you guys keep connected? Because it can be a little homesick, not having much people to relate to and what's not.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that is actually one of the things that I took upon myself prior to becoming ambassador. When I was a student here, I was a student here for 7 years, and most students came for either 2 to 4 to 5 years. So I found myself as one of these senior students. And what I did in the past was I sort of created a group, and I would, through the Chinese embassy or through just local contacts, I would try to reach the scholarship winners as soon as possible and bring them into the group. And it was there then that they were able to field their questions and have them answered by some of the other senior Barbadians here in China. And we'd like to continue that as the years go on. So that's always been quite of benefit to the students. When I came, there wasn't the technology, the local app that exists right now, the WeChat app, but now it is, and we're able to reach out to students. They're able to reach out to us personally in a way that previously perhaps wasn't possible. So definitely via social media, we tend to keep the Barbadian community together. Where possible, we like to reach out to them and check on them every now and then. That's something that, we'd really like to start doing a bit more, just to make sure, everyone's okay, and remind them, that we're here to assist.
And how has this journey been for you? Of course, it's a change in terms of career, same country,
Yeah.
but in terms of career and policy.
It's been very fulfilling. I would say it's been very fulfilling. It's been exciting, and it's been challenging, of course. One of the first things I remember being told when I came here to study was that, well, first of all, when I studied in my Tianjin was where I studied Chinese. I was the first Barbadian to study there, period. And that led to me actually, not many people remembered my actual name. They referred to me as Barbados, Mr. Barbados. And I remember the principal at the time told me, you guys are all ambassadors for your country. We were 100 students from 60 different countries. And that's an environment that very few people will ever experience outside of a huge country like China. And I would say that in the initial stages, doing that almost subconsciously, just always representing your country, always painting the image of your country for people via your actions, via the way you carry yourself, via your production, if you're a worker, via your excellence in school. I think that idea of becoming an ambassador was always fascinating to me. And now having, attained that post in the most official realm in foreign affairs, it really has been an honor to represent Barbados in several ways. I've been able to promote Barbados as a place to visit, a place to enjoy, a place to do business with, a place to invest in. And we've done that at the lowest levels, and I say lowest simply because of their age. We've had students here come to the embassy. We've had Barbados Day at the embassy, allow them to see some of our products, some of the beauty, tell them a bit about the country. We've had roundtable forums and exhibitions with various government entities, ministries, companies as well, where we again have conversations about our country and enlighten them to some of our policy decisions and some of our futuristic outlooks in several fields. And I've even spoken at high-level engagements with high-level senior officials in government and corporate officials as well. So that's really been fulfilling. I think speaking to people who have a very limited knowledge of Barbados, or in some cases no knowledge of Barbados, being able to give them that initial glance, that initial taste of Barbados, and seeing the curiosity and the urge to learn more, that really fuels me and my team here at the embassy on a daily basis. We really want to improve the visibility of Barbados and the Caribbean here in China, and we work together with the other Caribbean embassies here in Beijing to really boost that visibility.